What is up? Truth and transparency. Oh God. I can't even get into my damn StreamYard, okay, for life to work properly. Everything got reset. No idea what's going on. But I am going to give it a second here to get people over from the other stream. As I'm waiting for all those people to come on over. Again, want to welcome everybody to Truth and Transparency. Total hack job today, but was able to shut that down. I had to restart everything, take out everything that was ever in my laptop out of it. And so therefore, all these old defaults started popping up. So we have some wild stuff going on. But at the end of the day, I can do this. So yeah. Again, welcome. Let me go ahead and see what's up. Let's see if I'm doing this. There we go. Gonna make some other changes here. Great show for you guys. Great show. There we go. Moderators, you have your hands full. Good luck. Again, we're going to be welcoming Bela here in a minute. She will be playing the state tonight. We're going to get things kind of rolling with what to expect or not to expect. The preliminary hearing, the trial, all the stuff in Idaho, what's coming our way. Again, everything that you see here is are things that I believe or things that I've researched. So again, just waiting here for people to move on over from the other link. I do apologize. No idea what's going on. So, hell yeah, I'm heavy over here. When the internet crashes on you, aka your own laptop. So all I'm concerned about is that all my work was saved that I've ever done. I can reprogram things so that all my streaming works, but I just cared about all the work. So again, welcome. Check it out, guys. Here we go. This is an intro video that will get everybody warmed up for tonight. Again, I want to welcome Bela. She will be the state tonight. But before we get into all that, here's an intro video for you guys. Check it out. Moscow, Idaho, the University of Idaho. Student murders. November 13, 2022, 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho. A four-door sedan was seen in the immediate area of the crime scene, arriving at 4:04 a.m. and seen leaving at 4:20 a.m. This camera footage was given to an FBI forensic examiner with 35 years experience, 12 of those with the FBI. This FBI agent has specific training to include identifying unique characteristics of vehicles, and he uses a database that gives visual clues of vehicles across states to identify differences between vehicles. The neighborhood of the King Road crime scene had numerous cameras, of which was turned over to this FBI agent. From that footage, he initially believed that the suspect vehicle 1 was a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. a white Hyundai Elantra. The date on when these video clips were given to FBI is unknown, but we do know that on December 7, 2022, Moscow police issued a press release looking for a 2011-2013 white Elantra and used a stock image photo of a white Elantra in the press release. Logic would tell us that up and until December 7, 2022, there were never any issues or discrepancies surrounding the description of the vehicle seen in the immediate area of the crime scene around the time of the murders. The same FBI agent who examined the footage surrounding King Road used that same footage again to further review that footage, and during that further look said that now it could actually be a 2011 to 2016 white Elantra. Again, the dates of all of these reports will be very important in trial, but they are unknown today. Because it is a fact that December 7, 2022 was the date that the public was told by police to help them locate a stock image of the white 2011-2013 Elantra that was seen in the immediate area of the crime scene. And at no point was it ever modified to include 2014, 15, and 16. So let's take a look at a 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 Elantra. How does an FBI agent initially identify a 2011-2013 white Elantra as the sedan that arrived at 3:29 a.m. and passed by multiple times to then say, well, yeah, it could be a 2011 to 2016 white Elantra? There has to be a reason to justify the modification, especially because of the huge difference when it comes to a professional eye for a 2011 to 2016. To your average user, it's not going to seem like much, but to a professional, there's a lot of differences. Have you ever played photo hunt in a local bar? Well, I have, and guess what, guys? It's one of my favorite pastimes. So let's take a look at how hard it would be to tell the difference between a 2011 and 2015
Legit
Elantra.
favorite.
But
Legit
first,
favorite.
let's warm up. Can you guys get any of these? This is my warm-up. That is so different. Like, the stem isn't there either. Like, why didn't they do that? Again, welcome to the transparency, guys. Sorry for the switch up there. There you go. What's up, JJ? How are you? I am supporting women tonight. I did a couple to get me warmed up. All right, so back to that white Elantra. I think we're warmed up. Your live episode starts in just moments. Do me a favor, be kind in chat to one another. And make sure you take your touch DNA and slap one of those thumbs. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for deep dives like no other. The University of Idaho murders, justice and truth for the victims and their families. Again, thanks to the transparency. Welcome. What's up, Bela? How are you? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, you're muted.
I'm always muted.
Okay, you're gonna have to get a little louder.
I am.
Yeah. I don't know. Or maybe it's your connection.
So seriously, you can't hear me because no one can ever hear me over you, right?
Especially tonight, if you want to be bringing that case.
So I have to do this. I have to hold it up like this. Hello.
No. Yeah. So welcome.
Hi, everybody. Hope everyone's having a really good Tuesday. I think we did Taco Tuesday. Oh. It's always Taco Tuesday, right?
Always. When's the last time you played Photo Hunt?
Oh my God, it's been years. It's probably been like 10 years though, because I love it. You missed the stems.
No, I got this. I was hitting the stems, and they were trying to say that wasn't it because it was considered part of the tulip. So I went ahead and I called the company and I told them that they were wrong. It took me an hour to win that battle, but
you got it. But you got that stem in.
No, they still wouldn't give me the stem.
They need to fix that.
Yeah, but I was trying to show everybody that like a couple different times that it was like this is totally different.
I think you did an amazing job because the differences they're slight, but there's differences. And she did an amazing job, you guys, finding the differences. Your video kind of went into it, but did it really like? You
Oh,
want to
I'm
tell them
about
about
to.
it?
I'm
Okay.
about to.
Okay, do it. Because I mean, it's like you did a good job.
Well,
Octavia, I know they were fun at bars. Octavia,
you know, the ones that were my favorite were the naked photo hunt. You know what I
I'm
mean?
sure. I'm
Remember
sure.
the naked photo hunts?
But you know they had guy naked ones too, so it's not just girls and like what nipples missing and like what strap. There
Yeah,
was guy
guys.
ones.
I mean, guys and girls. Which ones were? I mean, I always thought like the guys ones were easier. Were they
They
harder?
were easier,
One of them were
right?
easier than the other. I remember that.
They were. The guy ones were easier. Like they didn't
Yeah.
want to offend anybody with the guy ones. Like have
Yeah.
a missing ball or something.
Wow. You guys have to know about photo hunt. If you don't know, I mean, you need to go to a old school place, but yeah, look at those. So here we go. Before we get things started, let me just go like this. All right. So Bella, why don't you tell people who you called today, first of all?
What? Don't, because I didn't. Okay, well, listen, that's the benefit of being a girl is you get to act really ditzy with car people.
Okay, so wait, who'd you call today?
I called it Hyundai dealership, or as Scott Roeder says, Hyundai dealership.
Oh, Scotty
Where's
too
Scott?
hottie.
Where's
Yes.
Scott? Hyundai.
So you called a dealership today?
I did.
What did you say?
Well, I said that I just like physical appearances of vehicles, and I just wanted to know if there's a really big difference between like a 2011 to a 2015 or 16 Hyundai Elantra, because I just care about what the outside looks like.
And this is me. What are you doing? What's
She's like,
going
why
on?
don't you ask about an investigation?
I'm like, what's going on over there? So, anyways, so like car people though, like they like know their stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like it's like they're gonna see a car and they're gonna be able to tell you, oh my god, that's this or that's that because of this or that, right?
Yeah. Well,
He was like,
I asked him.
he nailed it though when he said, oh, the Elantra, they switched like model, like they switched like the appearance in like I think it was like 2015 or 2016. That's exactly how he said it.
Yeah, he said they switched it in 2011 initially, and then they switched it in 2015 or 16. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And since like Bela's playing, you know, the prosecution end and I'm playing the defense end, I hear her. Yeah, but like you can't really tell, right? Like you really can't tell like what's like it's like not it's like you wouldn't be able to notice it like and I'm over here like you are totally like gaslighting
That's
our expert witness.
No, you're like ask him about. You should tell him you're doing an investigation. I'm like,
I didn't say doing an investigation. That's not how I said it.
Tell us.
What
Tell
I
us.
said, I'm listening to this conversation, and he's all like, yeah, like he's being like a typical like dude who's like all about his cars. He knows what's up, and Bella's over here trying to downplay the fact that he is like totally mentioning the fact that you can totally tell a difference in the exterior of a 2011 to 2015 and 16 because the models completely changed.
But that's not what he said. See, what he said is, but you do get a lot of
I recorded him. I recorded him.
Play it.
I recorded a little bit of it when I came in to see. Yeah, when I saw what was going on.
But then she stopped it when
I saw that you were trying to take advantage of my expert witness.
No, because he told me when you were around.
On the outside, we're just talking about the exterior.
Yeah, like that. Like what's different?
Yeah, what it looks like, the shape of it and things of that nature.
So it doesn't look different, right? Like from the 2011.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
So like from the 2011 to the 2015, it's not really different on the outside that much.
No, not much. Very, very little.
Yeah.
And it's hard, even though I know, even though I've sold them for as long as I have, like there's been, since I've started, since 2011 to now, the body style has changed, maybe 4 times.
Yeah.
With now, obviously, being the sportiest.
That was an example of what Bella did to my lovely expert witness when she's like, but you really can't tell.
That was my expert witness.
You can't tell, can you? And I'm like, you can't say that. Let the man speak.
And then I was asking questions and you started talking and
he only said very, very little, guys. So he said very, very little because he thinks he's selling a vehicle to this poor girl.
True. That is true.
He thinks he's selling a vehicle to this poor girl to say, oh, no, you can't. Yeah, no, you really can't tell a difference because, like, okay, she wants to buy a 2011, probably because it's cheaper versus 2000. Yeah, no, you really can't tell. It's very, very little, very, very little.
But that's what he had said prior to you walking in, is that the exterior was little. Yes. And then he said the whole thing about bells and whistles, and your ears perked up and was like, and I knew what he meant by bells and whistles was on the inside. And I was
that's what he says right there. He's like, no, we're talking about the exterior too. Because I'm about to show you guys what the differences are.
Tell us, because she did let's not take away from the good thing that Lana did. She amazingly found this photo hunt on these cars.
I didn't find the photo hunt of these cars. I made photo hunt.
You made a photo hunt of them. Even better.
So the point of all of this is,
don't need the witness. It was my witness.
It was more just like, hey, we're having this like live debate tonight. Like, are you ready to bring it? Because I'm ready to bring it. Like, what do you got going on? Like, are you researching? What are you doing? Just giving her a hard time, just joking around with her. Next thing I know, she's on the phone with a damn dealership. And I'm like, wait a second. That is totally like, what are you doing over there? Like, that's not well, because you're not asking if I wanted to buy a car. And I'm like, well, yeah, he's trying to sell you a car. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, we need to say, hey, I want to know if you could tell the difference. I have my Ring camera here, and I think this asshole that lives next to me stole my tools out of my shed, and he used his car to transport it. Now, can you tell me if you were to see something on a Ring camera, would you be able to tell the difference of the year between this year and that year? That's kind of the question I was looking for.
And he would be like, you need to call your local PD.
She's over here like, he's going to hear the word police and just hang up. I'm like, no, he's not. Because we're not going to say police. We're going to say, what's up? Anyways, welcome everybody to Truth and Transparency. Here we go. Let's talk about 2011 to 2016. Point of this being is this: if you guys are paying attention to the PCA, a big part of it, and it's going to come down, and you're going to hear in testimony that the FBI, the expert that they are using on page 7, it starts. Says that they used a guy that had 35 years law enforcement experience with 12 years at the FBI. His specific training includes identifying unique characteristics of vehicles, and he uses a database that gives visual clues of vehicles across states to identify differences between vehicles. When you actually read that and you break that down, how can a vehicle look different in a different state? It's the same vehicle. So when I read that and I said his specific training includes identifying unique characteristics of vehicles, and he uses a database that gives visual clues of vehicles across states to identify differences between vehicles. The vehicle isn't made differently in Ohio than it is in Montana or California. Your white Hyundai Elantra that is a 2015 is going to look the same as the white Hyundai Elantra from 2015 that was made at the Marysville, distributing place, blah, blah, blah. So I thought that was very weird wording, because your car isn't different just because it's in a different state. It's just not. So maybe Payne didn't know what he was doing when he wrote that, but I just have to say that because no one's ever mentioned that, and I just had to. I wanted to get in front of that, and it's page 7, and it's there.
You mean when we were dissecting this PCA, all those times and all the language of it, we didn't even say anything about that? We didn't.
Well, no, because I didn't go. I never broke down the white Elantra before like this.
All I have is dude IDs cars.
Yeah, all I knew is that okay, like, how can you really mess this up, right? If you're an expert, but you did because you labeled it as a 2011 to 2013. But then check this out, guys. You add on 3 years. You add on 14, 15, and 16. So I said, okay, I want to see the difference on why somebody would ever be sitting down and you're rehanded the same videos that you looked at the first time. And you'd be like, okay, oh, I missed this. Oh, wait, check this out. Oh, wait, check that out. Like, no, this is your job. And guess what, guys? They didn't miss it before December 7th because they put it out to the world that it was 2011, 2013. And in fact, at no point in time did they ever change and add on those 3 years. So using the same footage, you have to account for, okay, you're changing it to add in these 3 years, but why? What's making you change your mind? Like, meaning the first time that you did it, what identifying markers of the vehicle did you see? Okay. And then you note, and that you came up with that it was between 2011 and 2013. Now, that makes sense to me that somebody could identify a 2011 vehicle and also think that it's a 2013 vehicle because the 2011 and 2013 are that similar. They truly are. And I'm about to go over here to the whiteboard to show you guys what I mean by that. But when you want to take a jump and say that a 2011 looks like a 2016, no way. And the number one thing for me, how it's a no way, are the lights. The lights in the front, the lights in the back of the vehicle. And it's the underneath, as you can see here. Let me take this away. Right here, you have the 2 red lights that are at the bottom of the vehicle. Do you see those right there?
Yeah, can you use your pointer so we can see?
Well, no, I have this video up, so I'm doing it through the video.
Okay.
But those lights right there, that's not where they are on a 2015 or a 2016. For example, let me go ahead and I'm going to get this out here so I can do this. It's that time.
It's whiteboard time?
It's whiteboard time.
You did a really good job because they're differences for sure. Here she goes to the whiteboard. You guys ready? I think the whiteboard needs its own song. Do you guys see what's on the screen right now, though? She's going to show you guys. So those 2 lights underneath, it's like the reflector lights. They're not reflectors, but the lights underneath. Yes, Hemidal, the bumper lights. So do you see where they are right there? Pay attention to where they are for every year. Whiteboard's getting ready. We had technical difficulties earlier, so we had to switch over to this stream. Yes, Tracy, it's under the trunk in this picture that we're looking at right now. And I don't know, I think this is a I want to say this is like one of like the 2012s. I don't know. Don't quote me on it. Actually, I shouldn't say that because that's Lana's thing. I'm not well versed in that. So she'll show you what it is. And also she's going to, do you see the antenna on top of the car, the picture we're looking at right now? So that antenna that's on the back above the rear windshield, the rear window, it's a little antenna. It kind of looks like a little tiny fin. So that'll be a little bit different. Also, that's all stuff Lana found doing her making a photo hunt. She found that.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. How dark is that though? It's pretty dark.
It's kind of dark.
Yeah, 1 second.
Here come the light. And there's a couple of other things that she found, and it's going to, she's going to show you.
All right. I'm going to zoom in on this.
Kind of good lighting. Yes.
All right. So you can hear me though, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So right here, you guys, you could see, this is all three side by side, these versions. So the first is that you'll see the car like with a little slant. Okay. And then you're going to see the back of it. And then you're going to see the side. All right. So I went ahead and I took the 2011, the views of that, the 2012, the views, 13, 14, and then 15. Okay. And then I went ahead and I got the manual from the 2015 just to point out the exact, like, they're highlighting certain things that are different, and they're really emphasizing on certain things. Meaning, the first thing is your wheels, right? So when you look at a 2011, do you see this shitty ass hubcap? All right. This is a completely different rim. It's actually a rim. That's 2011. 2015. There's a close-up of it. That's 2015. And then your 2011, 2012, same thing. They didn't change the tires yet. 2013, same thing. And then when you get into, again, 14 and 15, your wheels, those completely change. Next up, your mirror. On the back of your mirror on a 2015, there is the blinker light that they added right there. Under 2011, there is no blinker mirror light. 2012, 2013, again, nothing until you get to the 2015 are you going to get that light. So you got the wheel, you got the mirror. Now, take a look. Between when you pop the hood, there's a sensor. There is no sensor on a 2012 right above the license plate on a 2012, or I'm sorry, 2011, nor is there one on the 12, 13, 14, until you get to the 15, where they add that sensor right under the H. You can see that sensor. There is no sensor, so I circled it. There is no sensor. Now, let's talk about the lights on the back. 2015, they are up and out. Right there. 2011 to 2014, they are underneath. So when you would see the back of a vehicle, your lights are over here on your 2015. These are underneath. 2011, 2012 underneath. 2013 still underneath. 2014 still underneath. For 2015, they take the lights and they locate them up here. A huge, huge difference when you're going to be talking about seeing a vehicle from behind on a camera. Where are those bottom lights? Now, the front of the vehicle, where they're talking about the license plate. This grille is different, 2015, than it is on your 2011. It's way more space in between the grille, the hood. This has more space. But more importantly, the lights on the bottom. Here is it on the 2015 white. Do you see the L-shaped bottom right there? There's your main headlights, but you're underneath your fog lights. All right, let's take a look. This 2012 and 2011, these are not L-shaped. They are flat, straight. They're also not so you see how it's like a backwards L. Skinny, downright. It's also, that's black in there. It's black in here. Well, I'm sorry. In a 2014, they have it as clear. So that was different. They made it clear. But it's still, I guess, a rectangle. Again, that's 2014. But the 2015 is when they changed it to an L shape. Right there. And that would be a huge, you'd be able to, that's going to be very, very noticeable, this L. Versus, this is not an L, this is just straight across rectangle. 2015, 2012, 2011. Again, it didn't change until 2015. So you have the tires, you have your back lights, you have your mirror, you have your front light. All right, you guys back there? Could you guys hear all that? See all that? Bella? No, I can't hear you. All right. Well, Bella might have to clock back in, but
Just put me back on the screen.
oh. Sorry. Are you back now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Girl, I told you all my stuff is woo crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a picture of my son from this old school stuff because it was all redone. All right, so back over here again. I'm trying to play Vanna White on the whiteboard.
You
Talk
did
to you
good.
guys.
Everyone heard. You were asking if everyone can hear you. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So I wanted everybody to see those main differences. Now, I knew this would come up and someone says, I want you to watch a video with a car going and you know, it's going, oh, what, so fast?
I said that.
This car parked in front of the house, allegedly, attempted to park, then made a 3-point turn. Okay, then came up, passed by how many times? This car on King, all right, went by 4 times. 4 times.
The video might not be that good.
So it's, but here's the point of the matter, is that they identified the vehicle. Okay, this FBI agent identified the vehicle from the King footage, all the footage that was obtained by the King area, as a 2011 to 2013. Okay, that's what the FBI expert said the car was, 2011 to 2013. Okay, then they were given on page 6, or I'm sorry, on page 8, they were given 5 cameras in Pullman. Okay. They were given 5 cameras. If you see the end of page 7 on the PCA, it says investigators were given access to video footage of the Washington State University campus located in Pullman. A review of that video indicated that approximately, and they're listing all this stuff. Then they're using other cameras to locate the car at 244, 253, all that stuff. It was then this camera footage from WSU, okay, was provided to the same FBI forensic examiner that said that the King Road footage was 2011, 2013. Now they hand this footage over to the same, this would be different footage because it's WSU, and they provide it to the same FBI forensic examiner. The forensic examiner identified the vehicle observed in Pullman, Washington as a 2014 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra. Okay. Brian is living on that campus. He has a 2015. So could that actually be Brian's car that was a 2015 that the FBI agent, we haven't seen this footage, but that footage he identified as a 2014 to 2016, which would be a different vehicle than the 2011 to 2013 that he identified at King Road. Okay. Now, if you are handed the same footage to then somebody says, hey, I want you to re-look at that footage from King Road and tell me if it could be a 2014 or 2016. Okay, because guys, this is what's going to be my answer. Is that if you are going to label that as possibly being a 2014 or 2016, that means you have to take off the fact that it would be a 2011 to 2013 because they are that different. Because this is what the FBI does. They are taking identifiers just like we did to show the difference of these vehicles. Okay? The mirror, the tires, the hood, the lights, all of these identifying markers, that is what they're talking about when you're describing on if you would deem a vehicle this, that, or the other. Now, guys, we're not talking about Joe Schmo giving an account of something. This is an FBI expert, okay? But you cannot take footage that you saw across the town, okay, on a different campus in a different state, and you see that, you labeled it 2014, 2016, okay? You labeled the footage that you saw in Moscow, 2011, 2013. What made you come back to ask that FBI expert to say, hey, are you wrong? Are you sure that the footage that you looked at couldn't be a 2014 to 2016? Why? I mean, how do you go up to an FBI expert and ask them, if you're Payne, to say, hey, we came across this. Why don't you look at this? Yeah, that's 2014, 2016. So I guess why wouldn't the question be, do you think that the WSU car is the same car as the King? Why isn't that question in there? Why isn't that saying we handed the expert both of those videos and asked them if they believed that that car was the same, could be the same car? Because the point of all of this is that you identified two different vehicles within a 35-minute time period. So you need the WSU campus car to be the Moscow, Idaho King Road car. Again, ask yourselves these questions. Because how it's going to be presented in court is that, so you got it wrong the first time. Because you identified two different vehicles. Because they're trying to say that the WSU campus one is the same vehicle that is at King Road. Do you guys understand that? They're saying that WSU's campus camera footage is the same car that was at King Road. Well, an FBI expert identified those two vehicles as being different vehicles. And we're not talking about Joe Schmo saying, oh, he saw white. You know, this is an expert. And let me show you guys want to see how clear these rings are. These ring cameras are very, very clear. Even when you're in nighttime, depending on what program you put together. I have to mute you, Bela. It's your stuff's all staticky. So the questions are going to come like this. Agent Miller. Say his name's Miller. Agent Miller, what identifying markers did you identify on the King area footage to label your report when you did it the first time that it would be a 2011 to 2013? Okay. That's the type of question you're going to get. You're going to get the question of is, in your report, what identifying markers did you identify and point to as to your reasoning for labeling it X, Y, and Z, which is a 2011, 2013. You're going to have to say, I looked, you see this right here, boom. This right here, boom. This right here, this is why, this is why, this is why. Okay, great. Then on another date, you decide to take a closer look at that footage that you deemed a 2011, 2013. and you changed your report to say that you now want to include 3 additional years. Why and how did you come to that conclusion that you're going to add 3 additional years? So they're going to have, this person's going to have to explain why they, so looking at it again, I realized that X, Y, and Z. So everybody understand that. You're going to have to explain why when someone says this, mic dropping clearly doesn't get the memo here. It doesn't matter how many years have passed in a vehicle. It matters when the models changed. When the models changed. Did they go through a facelift? What type of facelift? But if you're going to sit here and say that you couldn't see and tell, and it was a bad, camera footage and blah, 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 the question will still remain the same, which is, if it then was so unclear, why are you changing? Why are you now including 3 additional years, of which 2 of them completely, like there's noticeable differences. So you're going to have to point that out. And then it's going to come back on and to say, so you were wrong when you said it was a 2011, 2013. You were wrong. And what's the date that you decided to take a look at this? Again, was it after you had my client's information that he owned in 2015? And did you take it upon yourself to want to look at this footage? Was it after you looked at the other footage from WSU? All of these questions become very, very important in hearing the answer. And then looking at the dates of these reports. But there is no way getting around the fact that suspect vehicle 1, without a doubt, was identified as 2 different vehicles from an FBI expert that they are planning on using in the preliminary hearing and in trial. Period. This person, who is a gentleman, identified 2 different vehicles. Period. He identified 2 different vehicles. He identified one vehicle on WSU's campus as being a 2014 to 16. He identified one vehicle on then that same vehicle that Payne. It's not the expert's fault. Payne is saying that this vehicle is the same vehicle as it was WSU to Moscow. But they were identified by an expert as 2 different vehicles. So you're telling me that the expert got it wrong. That's what they're telling us. But they didn't have a problem with the car. There was no problem with the vehicle. Think about it, guys. Think about it. There was no problem with the vehicle until when? Because they told the public on 12/7/2022 that we need your help locating a 2011 to 2013 white Elantra. So, and at no point do they ever say, well, 2011, 2016. They never say it. So when did it become a problem? When did they go ahead and take when did it become, we need you to take another look at this? I mean, they put it in the PCA that it was initially labeled as a 2011, 2013 in the footage. And if nobody thinks that's a big deal, it's a huge deal, because that's how you're getting to Brian Kohlberger, because you're saying that This car came from WSU's campus, which was right by where Brian lived. So, I mean, this is everything. Now, Bella, how do you feel about that from the state standpoint?
Am I still staticky?
No, you're good.
Okay. Well, what the state is going to come back and probably say here when they ask the witness, because as you pointed out on the probable cause on like 7, when they talk about this forensic examiner who has 35 years in the FBI with 12 years, I mean, in law enforcement and 12 years at the FBI, it says that he uses a database that gives visual clues, and that thing you pointed out, of vehicles across states to identify differences. I think what he's going to say is the specs weren't in, this is just my opinion, the specs weren't in the database, that those specs didn't come in. I don't know how they're going to get out of it. This is going to be...
The specs weren't in?
I don't know. I'm not an FBI agent. I'm not a prosecutor. Have no degree in any of this. So it's going to be my opinion only. And I feel like that's what they're probably going to say. Now, are they going to have a problem with that? Absolutely. It's one of the things that we honed in on really early. My PCA is filled with notes about a lot about the, discrepancies of the years and why it's like that, and how they don't tell us when they tell us the dates that they add, like the 2011 to 2013, but they don't tell us the date that they add the extra 3 years. So, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And they do
but like saying that something's a 2000, like you notice how he said a 2014 to 2016, those models, like, those resemble each other. Your 2011 to 2013, those ones resemble each other. Right. But that big difference of, so like, I could see like, if you're going to, so he just basically widened his, it's like this, when you look at the back of the car, okay, yeah, the front of the car, let's say, sure, it could be this, but when you go ahead and you look at the back of the car, then you can start eliminating things because of the lights. You get what I'm trying to say? So how can you ever say, we're going on the basis of that they were able to identify to the point of being able to label something a Hyundai Elantra between 2011 and 2013. I mean, that's a pretty good narrow down, wouldn't you say?
I like out of a million cars, yeah. I mean, like different car models, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So they were able to take, they were able to get it to that point, and they're doing that off of specs, wouldn't you say?
That's what they're purporting in the PCA, to be doing it off of specs, but
yeah, so they were able to see something. I mean, to be able to get it down to the fact that it's a white Hyundai Elantra, okay? Right? They were able to use this video at the house to get it to that point.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you would then think, if it was clear that you're looking at the specs to do it, the where the lights are. So there you go. See where those lights are underneath there. So then, okay, let's go and take a look at where these lights are here, and they're up and out.
It's a red one, so you guys might not be able to see it as well, but yeah. I think the front lights are a little bit more important because we heard a lot about the front plate.
There you go. That's your front. That's your front. That's your L.
And I think that you pointed out, and it was a really important distinction, that from the side view, that these lights, these bottom lights, the fog lights, are completely different in the 2015 versus the 2011. Right? Yeah.
I mean, and what's funny is when someone says, I really don't think they're going to be really focused on this. You guys, this is exactly what they were focused on in the PCA to be able to get to this point. The PCA is everything they're going to be focused on to make sure that this arrest sticks and that Brian Koberger goes to trial. So I strongly have to disagree with that, Leah, completely. That yes, all of this matters because you identified 2 different vehicles. And this is the same vehicle. There's only one vehicle. Unless you're going to throw in the wrench that there's now 2 vehicles, but that's not what they're doing. They're saying that the white sedan is consistent with suspect vehicle 1 at all times. Are they using the words consistent? So this is huge because they don't have right now Brian Kohlberger getting out of a vehicle and walking into that home. They're relying on the fact that Brian Kohlberger took his car and drove from his home and came to the house in his vehicle. And then got back in this vehicle and then drove away. But the expert identified 2 different vehicles. And then at some point went back and said, okay, it could be, But you guys notice how now we're gonna flip it on its head. Ready? Because then my follow-up question to this expert would be, okay, did you at any point in time label the WSU campus car to be a 2011 or 2013? So you didn't mix that up, right? That was just like did you have to look further into that to see if it was a 2011 to 2013? So what made you look closer at the King Road footage versus looking more closely at the WSU footage? That could have actually been a 2011 or 2013. And so that to me is going to be a huge question. I mean, why are you only looking further into the King Road versus did you look further into WSU's footage? Because this is the car, guys. There is not 2 vehicles. Brian couldn't have possibly been driving 2 vehicles at the same time. He could have switched vehicles, I guess, right? But in no point in time did they say that. And in fact, they're alluding to the fact of that suspect vehicle 1 is consistent with the sedan seen on WSU's campus. So you gotta go back and read that. And this has nothing to do with, guys, anybody that's out there saying that this is about the gas station footage. That's not what this is about. I don't even know if they use the gas station footage in the PCA. Okay. This is, read the PCA, guys. The PCA says it. This vehicle is seen driving past the residence, making a turn around Queen Road number 52, coming back down, driving now westbound, then tries to park, then tries to turn around but can't, then goes further down to make a 3-point turn in the middle of King Road and Queen Road to then come back past the house, and then they stop it. So the footage that they are referring to and that they were having this FBI expert look at, in my opinion, is 99.9% the camera footage that is right around that house. That is not, the gas station is nowhere near the King Road house. Can Anne bring that up and talk about that as, oh, so here we have another vehicle that looks just like it? Absolutely. But this FBI expert, in my opinion, looked at the King Road videos, period, and the WSU 5 cameras that he was handed, which it says in the PCA, period.
Don't you think by the time we go to a prelim that they're going to introduce more cameras? And
no, I don't.
You don't? You think that it's just going to be what's in this PCA at the prelim?
Yes, 100%. Because the more vehicles that they throw in, it's not good for the prosecution.
Not vehicles, cameras.
Which have vehicles. Right?
Well,
so then you have to make sure that those are consistent with.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I don't think that that's happening. My opinion. I don't think that's happening. I think that this person identified 2 different vehicles And it says it in the PCA that they identified 2 different vehicles. With that said, how do you mainstream media doesn't want to talk about it. I have no idea why, but this is huge. You identified 2 different vehicles. That's supposed to be the same vehicle. The FBI expert that they're calling to the stand. Now, I think it's very clear to see what that front light looks like compared to what the 2011 looks like.
I think that's the best argument for the defense if they're going this way, would be that light.
Because if those 2 vehicles are not the same, and if the jury for a second feels that those are not the same, in which a jury is not going to be present for the preliminary hearing, okay? But if I'm Anne, I'm hammering this because whoever was in that car committed the crime. That is their case. Whoever was in that vehicle that was seen coming at 404 and leaving at 420, that's your killer. That's who they want.
You don't think the DNA is the case?
No, I do not. Because then they wouldn't have centered around this. Now, could they get in and get past maybe the preliminary hearing? But I'm telling you, if you were to be on the jury and you saw this vehicle, and then you saw those lights, and then you saw these lights. Oopsies, let me back up. 13, 14, 15, and 16. (2011 or 12), that is. How you could ever think that those lights are the same lights and convict somebody, then I pray for this country. Because it's a different vehicle. And this is the stuff this is what the experts are going to be testifying to. And so this has to be blurry. Like, how do you get around saying that looks like that?
It might be blurry though. But yeah, those lights are going to be, the front lights are going to, if this is the way that Anne's going to go with this line of questioning, those front lights are going to be important.
And I think what it's going to come down to is someone says, show both vehicles driving at 3 a.m. in the dark and differentiate. Guess what? Guess who has to do that?
Burden of proof. Well,
it's on the state to show that you can tell the difference.
But it's preponderance of the evidence.
No, it's not. No, it's not. What are you talking about?
Wait, what is it on?
We're talking about a trial. That the trial is beyond a reasonable doubt that vehicle.
But on prelim.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you a question. Let's say that you saw both of these footages. Okay.
The WFU footage and the King footage. Okay.
Yeah. And everybody wants to talk about no plates on the front. You guys, I'm telling you, no plates on the front. All right. It has nothing to do with the lights. The lights don't change just because you have 2 vehicles that don't have a front plate. If the lights are 2 different lights on it, it's 2 different cars. How can you change your lights? Y'all forget about the plate. All they're trying to say is that we could not make out a plate. Okay. And then they say, oh, come to find out, PA doesn't require you to have a front license plate. Okay, great. Awesome. They're using that to their advantage. We don't know that. We don't know anything. But if in fact those lights are different, because how can an expert totally mess that up? But he gets a WSU one perfectly fine, 2014 and 2016. He clearly saw something in the WSU footage, right? Because he got it correct with Brian. So going back to this, if you were to see both footages, what if Brian was to say, yeah, I was driving around because I left my house and I went to the coffee house apartments to hang out with my friend Brent Kapaka. And that's where you guys saw me. And that's where you saw me right there. You know, you saw me right there. That's exactly where I was headed. And that's where I went. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there. What if he says that? So you're putting him in a vehicle that you label to, yep, that's me. And then that vehicle does not match that other vehicle that you've already said is not the same car, but then you had to come back and take a closer look. Now, I'm not saying that that's how that's going to fly or whatever, because I don't think Brian's taking the stand, but nor would I ever think that anybody should do it like that. But I mean, I don't know. Because it's on them to prove this, but I don't understand. I guess my struggle would be I would want to see the footage, and I would want to see how the expert labeled it a 2011, 2013, and then decided at some point, which would have been way after the fact, because they already put it out to the public that they were looking for a 2011, 2013. At some point, way after the fact, did they say, okay, I'm going to relook at this. Okay, it's a 2000. It could be a 2011 to 2016. When all these dates matter. And then what made you change it? What did you see differently the second time? Because I shouldn't even say the second time that you looked at it. Come on, you're watching this footage over and over and over and over. When you decided to change your expert opinion, what were the deciding factors? What were those factors? Oh, you're telling me that one of those factors wasn't that my client drove a 2015 white Elantra? You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and if the dates, you have to pay attention to these dates, which you guys, they haven't told us. And then it goes back to this. Now, read the PCA. And when they're all like saying these words, which is like, why would anybody ever say this, right? But let me read this to you. When they said this word, I say this sentence right here. And Bella's going to be like, Lana, that is not what it means, but I can at least say it. And then we can hear from her. Okay. But right here at the end, suspect vehicle 1 is next seen departing the area of the King Road residence at approximately 4:20 a.m. at a high rate of speed. At a high rate of speed. At a high rate of speed. How fast could you be going out of that area when it's so tight and all those cars are there? How fast could you be going? But they need to tell us in this PCA that it was at a high rate of speed, because you know why? Because guess why? Because we got to listen to an expert witness explain to us how he made a mistake, and it was because that vehicle was going so fast. And all I have to say is, I don't even have words. I think it makes sense to me now why suspect vehicle 1 next observed traveling southbound on Walenta Drive. But prior to that, it was departing the area of the King Road residence at approximately 4:20 at a high rate of speed. Really, they didn't talk about the speed of any of these vehicles ever. There's no talking about no speed anywhere. There's no speed. We're not talking about speed anywhere except for, right here, when this vehicle is seen leaving. Why? Because the expert is about to take that stand and say, I totally missed it. I'm an expert, but I totally couldn't tell what the difference was because it was just going so fast. Okay, so then my question still remains is, if it was going so fast, then how could you change it to that? Was it after somebody said, could it be a 2014, 15, or 16? But then you have to look at the original notes and see what they deemed it and why they deemed it a 2011, 2013 in the first place. So now, what do you think, Bella?
About what part? About what?
About me saying that, do you think it's interesting that they wrote that in there? I can't hear you. I don't know. So, well, as you're trying to fix that all up, you fix that up. And tonight, we're going to be closing out this debate here for the last 45 minutes with, as Bella's working on that, is we have the state's case. Again, this is going to be a couple part episode, but we have the state's case. And tonight we're going to be hearing from questions that would be asked upon the dispatch, the 3 initial officers, and then a little bit of Blaker and Payne. So how is that working for you yet?
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so what I think about this is that they did it for, I don't agree with what your reasoning is. I do think it's bizarre that they have that in, not bizarre, but I think it's interesting that they have that, like that he was, traveling when he left at 425 or 420 at a high rate of speed using Walenta. I don't think it's like to get in front of this FBI thing though, but.
Do you think it's to get in front of the whole, how he was able to make it to wherever he was when he turned on his phone?
No, I think it's to show that whoever was driving that vehicle was in a hurry. Now, at trial, I don't know about the prelim, they can put that on and we can all decide for ourselves if we think it's a high rate of speed or isn't a high rate of speed. And that, again, like bushy eyebrows, is subjective.
Correct.
Can be subjective. So, I don't put too much stock into something like that. Like, I think that they have this car at the time. They think it's suspicious. What's going to matter to me is what Brian, and they have the data, what Brian was doing prior, the week prior, the days leading up. That's something that would be interesting to me. What he did, if he has ever turned off his phone in the early morning hours in that way in the past, if that's a pattern that he has, and if it's not.
So I guess it's a question that you're going to be asking one of your officers when they're on the stand.
Well, no.
I love it. I got to mess with Bela.
Yeah.
I mean, are you ready for this? We're going to help each other get, do certain things to make sure that the questions.
I'm not a lawyer.
Well, yeah, either of us are lawyers, but we worked on this together to be able to show you guys how the different sides are possibly going to come, at this.
Yeah.
And
but you're just better at that.
No.
Okay, go.
Okay.
What are we doing? We're doing
again. This is the state's case. So,
and I'm the state. Hello.
My God, Bill Thompson looking way better.
Who's Bill Thompson?
The prosecutor.
Oh.
You know that.
I thought it was like a sports person. I'm like, that was in chat. I just always think you're like talking sports to me. What? Bill Thompson from what? From like the 49ers?
Yeah, the 49ers, Bill Thompson's here to sign autographs.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So we don't even know the name of the dispatch, but I went ahead and put my stamp of approval on this, that I believe that they're going to come out with the dispatch person to be able to introduce the 911 call and how everybody was, sent out that day. So again, the type of questions that would come from the state on just introducing.
Do you want me to start?
Well, yeah, it's your case.
Okay. So obviously I don't know if but I don't know. I wouldn't call that. I wouldn't call this person, but you would in the prelim. But okay, so this is the dispatch. So it's the person that took the 911 call, and I would ask obviously to state their name. Then I would say, how long have you worked for the jeez, I just wrote it down. The Whitcomb 911. How long have you worked for Whitcomb 911?
And let me just tell everybody, we're asking the questions, but we're not answering them because
yeah.
obviously we don't know them. So the way that we're doing this is that we're asking the questions and pausing and letting you think on what you think the answers would be.
Right. And so then it would be, so just so everybody understands, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not answering.
We're not answering for other people.
And then, Lana, do you want me to ask what shift? Because you didn't circle that one. So what shift do you normally work? Where do you physically take phone calls when you're working on a shift? I'm just going to say like in my cubicle, or he's going to say in my cubicle.
Well, like a number 7 I have.
Okay. Where are you working a shift on? Were you working a shift on November 13th, 2022? What shift?
The number 10.
Do you recall a 911 call on November 13th, 2022 around 11:50 a.m. asking for assistance? And you want to say, I would just say 11:58 a.m.
Sure. You can
you said it would be better to just round it.
Number 11.
Your Honor. See this, okay, you guys. So this is Lana's like, we would need this witness to introduce the 911 call and the CAD notes.
So continue.
Okay, so this is the question. So this is the thing. Your Honor, may I approach this witness? Do you recognize this document? Can you identify the document? Your Honor, I ask for the courts to admit into evidence States Exhibit 2, November 13th, 2022, CAD notes associated with 911 dispatch to 1122 King Road. Mm-hmm. May I publish? Okay, this is
so then you would go to number 17.
Are you familiar with CAD notes? What are they?
So that way you could explain it to the jury, when that point comes. But in the prelim, that may stay out based on your notes, based on your, the documentation in front of you. How quickly did you dispatch PD and EMTs for this 911 call?
Yeah, and it isn't there a number and trace located on it? But isn't that your question? Wouldn't you want to ask?
Yeah, no. How did you determine? So what phone number was associated with the call? That would kind of probably stay away, but you'd probably move on to number 29 then.
Your Honor, may I approach this witness? Do you recognize the item that I just gave you? Can you identify it for the record? Is this your handwriting on the disc? What is on this disc? Who did you supply this disc to? Your Honor, I move to admit this into evidence. This witness has identified as a 911 call from November 13th, 2022. States Exhibit 1. And then now we're playing it, I guess. Your Honor, may I play States Exhibit number 1, the 911 call?
Yeah, so the 911 call would play. But that's how kind of I believe that you're going to be able to introduce, just really simply, you're bare bonesing it for your preliminary hearing. So you're just going to be getting to the fact of you took a 911 call. Here it is. Okay. And then how you supplied that out to your investigators. So your CAD notes are your notes that you entered into the computer database in real time when listening to that 911 call. Yes. You're just simply introducing evidence. And I think that's where you're going to hear the 911 call. and then the dispatch person is pretty much going to be done with testimony as far as direct examination. I mean, you're just getting that out there and getting that in.
Yeah.
What do you think? You could introduce it plenty of ways, but
I would introduce it with an officer, but that responded, because it would just be like speed things up for the prelim. But yeah, and then would you go ahead number 13 and ask that on
so like on cross-examination, so like that's pretty much that's your direct with her, and then it's going to be very simple as far as the cross on that. If you wanted to ask questions such as I think I would probably throw some stuff up to the fact of who did you hand your 911 call to? Did somebody come and get that from you? And then who did? Because I'd want to know the date of that. Was there a report of that? Do you recall when that was? Were there other people associated with this investigation that asked for those, that information as far as the 911 call? Are you able to, how did you get that CD to be able to burn it? Do you have to sign in? Because there's been leaks, you guys, I'd want to use this as a chance to possibly flush that out. Did you meet with the prosecutor before you testified here today? Did they supply you with, any of the CAD notes? Did they supply you with the 911 call to refresh your memory? What names of any do you recall on there? How many different voices do you hear on the 911 call? How many people identified themselves to you on that 911 call? You listed it as a unconscious person. I haven't heard the 911 call, so I'd want to but if there was something weird about that, but based on the answers, that's how your cross would go about anything that would be out of the ordinary. But the point of all that is to get, the 911 call out there and the dispatching out there. I would maybe ask this person to identify how many voices they thought that they, heard throughout it, how many people they think they talked to. And then I would maybe ask them about the phone number and the location and how the geo trace works.
Can you explain that a little bit, going back to the Jeter case that you covered and what that means?
Okay. So for example, when a 911 call comes in, how long did it take to have the trace locate? It's called trace locate. So when that came in and you dispatched out, did you dispatch out based on the location of the phone? Did the 911 caller give you the address where they were at? Did they say, oh, I'm at, did this person say King Road? Did they say Queen Road? Were they able to answer it? But where did the trace locate? And it tells you, obviously it comes up the number and it comes up the name that's with that number. And so when you're looking at these CAD notes, you would see, for example, they're saying that one of the roommates, their phone called 911. But when you talk to it, did you hear that this is a male? Okay. So it's a male, but then the phone is belonging to, I'd maybe ask about that, but I would definitely ask about the trace on it, how quick it happens and how accurate the GPS is. And is that how you dispatch out, or was it based on what they told you on how you dispatched out to where somebody would go? Because in the Jeter case, the 911 caller was 7 miles away from the location of the body that they were said that they were standing over. The cell phone number came back, and then the location of when the 911 call went out, the location that person was standing in when they made it. And they said they were standing over the body. Well, in the Jeter case, the location of the cell phone that was traced was close to 7 miles away from the body, and nobody caught that. And it's like, what the hell are you guys doing? So that's kind of what I would just look at to make sure that the person that's calling 911 and saying that they're in the location of a certain place is actually where the geo, where the location traced back to.
Yeah, important.
So, so then we're looking at the next three, which what we've done is we've kind of clumped them together to ask the questions.
Yeah.
Because of the first responding officers, which Noonan's, Smith, and Gunderson. So the state, go ahead. We have Smith and Noonan's up there.
So we'll just have everybody up there, basically. And that's not how it's going to work, you guys, obviously.
That's not how it's going to work, but these questions are going to be similar.
Yeah. So, or in the prelim, they might just put one of the officers up. And so we don't know who. So we're just saying it could be any one of these, right? So,
yeah. And you're looking, So,
yeah. So then I would say, I guess to whoever the officer is, how long have you been an officer? Obviously state your name. How long have you been an officer? How long have you been a police officer for Moscow, Idaho? Lana wrote this is a good one. What did you think you were responding to at 1122 King? And the reason I think she wrote, and probably everyone understands this, or if you don't, the reason she wrote that is because if you don't remember or you don't know, the initial call out was for an unconscious person. So, so who knows, right? Okay. Is this number 4 would be you?
Yeah. So were you dispatched to 1122 King on 1113? Yes.
Okay.
These are ones that I added in. I don't think that you have these. Who did you encounter at the residence when you arrived? Can you describe the scene when you arrived? Were you the first officer on scene? What did you do before you went inside the residence? Was the 911 caller there when you arrived? Who was the unconscious person? And was EMT on scene?
Was there an unconscious person?
Well, who? I mean, that's what you're responding for. And then,
but remember that they said in that unconscious person in Blum's article just means that they were busy. So we don't know if there was actually an unconscious person. That's not going to come up. We got to ask if there was an unconscious person. Well, I would, as a state, I would ask if there was. If that's the line of questioning, I would ask if there was an unconscious person.
Mm-hmm. So, what were your duties when you arrived? What time did you walk through the home? Was your body cam on? Did you walk through the home? Did you draw your weapon? Who did you interview at the house? How quickly did you go inside? Did you all three go in there? You know what I mean? If they're all three there at the same time. But did you supply any incident reports? How long were you there for that day? What was your next move that you radioed in? As far as did you draw your weapon, I think that's important. If someone's telling you that people were, depending on what you were told, would you draw a weapon? You're going into a home that has been, again, the prosecution is going to keep it to their case. They got their guy, and we're going to keep it on path to where the questions are going to come up that's going to contradict or argue or be argumentative and things like that is going to be on cross-examination when Anne would be asking these people these questions. And right now, we don't have, because we don't have any of the incident reports, we don't have if these guys ever even, made up any incident reports. But they're going to be asking, so what's their protocol? What were they supposed to do? Who did you report to? Obviously you're getting there thinking that it's an unconscious person. It becomes a quadruple homicide. Who did you notify? Who then were you taking orders from? How long did it take for other people to get there? Who manned the yellow tape? Who began the process of having a crime scene log? Things like that. Where were you when you were dispatched? Your lock-in time, all of that stuff. So the prosecution is just going to get out the bare bones of how things got from A to B to C to D to E.
They're probably also going to ask about what they saw when they went in, right? Like the body.
Then you're going to get to that, which I think they're going to be bare bones about that, only because
from these off.
Yeah, it's going to be. So, for example, for the Sheldon Jeter Jr. case, all the Alcoa police officers, none of them have one incident report that they wrote up. Even though they were all the first responding officers, they were there the whole time. Not a single one of them wrote up a police report, an incident report of what they did. And that's 3 officers that never wrote up anything, and they were the initial people. And I thought that was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So
who wrote one? Did anybody write one for Sheldon?
Pennsylvania State Police, they're all the ones that had all the reports. So
you should share that one time, like show everybody, because PSP, Pennsylvania State Police, is involved in this.
Yeah, Pennsylvania State Police is involved in this. And that's why, as we're going through, like, mine and Bela's like kind of like series of like, where we're going to get into like the more of like the debating things, I am going to pull out all the documentation from the Sheldon Jeter Jr. case to show you this is all the stuff and how it should look, or what they ask and what they do. Because Pennsylvania State Police were the ones that were there for the arrest of Brian Kohlberger and all that crap. So, and I'm the one that found Pennsylvania State Police said they went into a convenience store at 1:30 in the morning, at 12:30 in the morning, I'm sorry, that they have no documentation for. And that was a convenience store that was closed. It was during COVID. So
that's the Sheldon case that she's talking about, you guys.
Yeah, so, Pennsylvania State Police was on it. Yeah, so it's, but the responding officers, I'm curious to see what kind of reports they have. I do know that they had body cam on because they used Noonan's body cam to identify and locate where the dog was when the police arrived and went in. Okay. So when you're going to get into mine and Bella's begin to debate would be right here where we start talking about Payne and Blaker. But basically what the prosecution is going to be getting out is A to B to C to E with the early responders, the dispatch. Now we get into people that are making the decisions and who they are and how they got their label and then what they did. And the PCA tells us a little bit about that. And a preliminary hearing is used, as far as the defense is concerned, is to see what kind of evidence they have, use it to impeach a witness down the road with the line of questioning. So you have them answering something a certain way now, and that when they go to answer it then at the trial, that you can impeach them. So that's what that's all about. But
what it's for, tell them what it's actually for, like for the state even.
Oh, the state, they just want to make sure that the guy that they arrested, that it continues on. This is going, further. So
it's basically to show probable cause that there is a reason to spend the money to go to trial, and that the person that they have as a defendant is the right person, and that they have enough evidence to go further. So like kind of like how the probable cause affidavit shows to arrest somebody a prelim is to show that there's probable cause to go forward with a trial. And so you don't always want to show, as a state, you don't always want to show all of your hands to the defense during a prelim and let them know what you have. So you kind of like hold some things back. So you show enough to show that this is the person and that you want to go forward and go to a trial. But at the same time, you don't want to give, as Lana just said, the defense does use this as a way to see what you have.
So in a preliminary hearing, your police officers can testify to hearsay because they are deemed qualified. Now, if people are watching this and you want to get this news out to Ann Taylor, go right ahead. But I'm going to bring forward something that I would object, and this could possibly be something big for the defense, is I would object to Brett Payne being able and allowed to be considered a qualified expert to testify to hearsay. And I'll tell you why. Now, again, will it work? Probably not, but it's worth a try. The reason being is that you have to have had 5 years of experience through being a police officer to be able to be qualified and or have certain training to be qualified, to be considered to testify to hearsay. Well, Brett Payne has not worked for 5 years as a police officer. So would I just throw that up and see if it could stick? Absolutely. You have to. Now they may say that there's Idaho, local rules and blah, blah, blah. But according to the law of the land, you have to have 5 years experience to be able to be considered a qualified witness in a preliminary hearing to testify to hearsay. What this means is, for example, as we start this, so we're going to start with Blaker. Or I'm sorry, we'll start with Payne. We're going to start with Payne. This is Bela's case. So you can ask this witness all these questions, but then you can even get to the point of asking him, what did the SWAT officer say to you that arrested Brian Kohlberger? Mm-hmm. That would be considered
admissible if
hearsay. That's considered hearsay. Objection, hearsay, okay? You would just ask the SWAT officer what he saw, okay? But in the preliminary hearing, Brett Payne, if asked that question, or Blaker, okay, they could answer that question and not be objected to because they are qualified to testify.
They're experts.
Yeah, they're considered qualified witnesses is how they use that word, not experts, qualified witnesses. And a qualified witness puts you in a category to be able to testify to hearsay. And now I would object that Officer Payne is not a qualified witness due to him not working and serving for 5 years on the police force. So I would go hard at that. And I would then make, any and every argument that I possibly could. And I would look at any training and whatever, just put that motion in. And make Blaker do it. You know what I'm saying? Make anybody do it versus him. And it does not mean that Payne's not going to be able to testify. It just means that I would go hard at him not being able to testify to hearsay. That's all. That's what she would do. Right? Again, it just gets denied or whatever.
Yeah, might stick, might not. I mean, he has 4 years.
He has 4 years allegedly, and
as a police officer, and it could get if the defense goes with that, it could get denied because it's 5 years and or technical experience. So
training.
training. So it could be that he got training and, just another year is needed. Like, sure, he has that. But yeah, hearsay is important because in a prelim, because it kind of speeds things up. So instead of having instead of having the SWAT officer come up and say, he would be there in the trial. So in the trial in front of a jury, he would be there. But in the prelim, it would be, Officer Blake or Officer Payne, what did the SWAT officer say to you when they went to arrest Koberger?
Yeah. What did the SWAT officer say that Brian Koberger was doing when he was getting arrested?
Yes.
That would be admissible. We're just explaining that to you guys. All right. So here we go. Payne takes a stand. I'm not going to help you, Bella. What do you got?
So when Payne takes the stand, I would obviously ask him about his training. I would ask him his name. And then I'd ask him to walk me through what happened, when he was handed this case, who assigned him this case. And actually, I wrote some of this down. If I do that, I'm probably not going to be able to get back here. And then what I'd want to do is ask him eventually. I'm not going to go through the nitty-gritty, but what I'd want to do eventually is ask him about if he's allowed to talk about hearsay and you get denied with that. I'd like to ask him about Dylan and what Dylan told him. And I would ask him, what was
So who briefed you when you you have it? Okay.
No. I would have him go through when he got to the scene and what happened and how
who briefed him and when you arrived.
When he arrived.
What was your arrival time? What were your duties that were assigned to you? Who assigned these duties to you? Can you describe the outdoor scene when you arrived? Who was there? Was there a perimeter set up? Who was in charge of the crime scene log? Were there any eyewitnesses to the crime? When did you initially walk through the home? Did you take notes? Was your body cam on? Did you take any notes prior to going to the home? Were you briefed? What were you told that before you went in there?
What were you told that was awaiting you? Well, yes. And then we'd get to the sheath. So then I'd ask him about the sheath and how he observed the sheath and where it was, what condition it was in. Obviously, he's going to talk. I would ask him about the bodies as well. And then we would get to the DNA on the snap. I'd ask him some questions about that. In episode 2 of this, we can talk about the other people we would have on, right? But yeah, so I would just ask him. And then I would ask him.
So basically everything that you guys see in the PCA, it's kind of going to be that's the base. That's what's the basis of how your investigation was led, what you did, things like that. So we have gone over the PCA for Payne, numerous times. And he's going to be allowed to testify to more hearsay. So what did Bethany say to you? Who did you interview? Things like that. What did they tell you? So think about anybody that you want to know about, the prosecution and who they think is important. They're going to ask him about and to say X, Y, and Z about what he heard, things like that.
Right.
So, and since we know in the PCA, I'm kind of just helping Bella out here just so that we can fast forward right to the cross of Payne. Here's the PCA. It got the guy arrested, right? Here it is. It got the guy arrested because we believe this is the guy. So, question stating, in the PCA that, you were working side by side with X, Y, and Z in the department. You were briefing them. They were briefing you. How many search warrants, things like that. Just making sure that it's an efficient. that you eliminated other possibilities, things like that. So when you go to cross, Bela, you can object based on all things.
Well, I can't object because one of the main objections is if I brought something up or not. So, like, you know, so go ahead.
Well,
I'll
so
object
go
to
off
what?
of the PCA.
Okay, I'll go off the PCA. So
Okay.
if we talked about the PCA.
So, I mean, and don't worry, I'll have something to come back on you.
I'm sure you will.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Officer Payne, bring it to me. Officer Payne, let me see here. I pulled up a whole file for you. Okay.
Well, you know that
Officer Payne, how many murder investigations prior to this quadruple homicide investigation have you been a lead investigator on this case for? How many murder investigations have you done prior to this one?
We're not answering you guys.
Again, we're not answering. So this is your first murder investigation as a lead investigator.
You weren't answering.
Well, I didn't answer. This is about how many were you the lead investigator?
Mm.
How many murder investigations period have you been a part of, just in general? All right. Officer Payne, you said you arrived to 1122 King Road at approximately 4 p.m. on 11/13. Is that correct? You said that Officer Smith walked you through the home on your initial walkthrough. Do you recall saying that? Who else walked through the home with you during that walkthrough? Was your body cam on during that walkthrough? And were you dispatched to the crime scene that day? Did you receive like a call that day? How did you wind up at 1122 King Road at 4 p.m. that day? Do you normally work Sundays? Is that like a day that you normally work? Did you receive any outside calls from any department employees prior to arriving to King Road on 11/13?
He's not going to understand that question.
Did you receive any outside calls? Like, what do you mean he's not going to understand that question? Did you receive any phone calls from Did you receive any phone calls from your employees, your coworkers? Anybody call your cell phone that day prior to you arriving at 4 p.m.? Were you asked to come earlier to the crime scene that day? When were you first notified that there was a quadruple homicide in your jurisdiction? Officer Payne, were you notified prior to your arrival on scene of any of the possible victims? Did your phone receive the vandal alert, Officer Payne, to shelter in place? Do you recall what time? Do you have any personal knowledge of who issued a vandal alert that day? Now, that vandal alert, was that before you arrived on scene that the alert was issued? To your knowledge, do you know how the vandal alert system notifies phones? Do you have to register your number to receive the alerts? Is it similar to the Amber Alert system?
Are you asking Payne about the alerts?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So for the Amber Alert system, based on your cell phone being within a certain radius, within a cell phone towers of the area of an alleged abduction, people's cell phones go off. Have you ever had an Amber Alert come to your phone, Officer Payne? So have you ever got an Amber Alert, Officer Payne, for a an abducted child that took place in California?
Objection, beyond the scope.
Again, I'm just asking Officer Payne if he understands and knows
There's no
how the
relevancy here.
vandal alert system works.
We've asked enough about this relevancy and moving on.
Again, do you have to register your number to the police department to get those alerts? Or is it just based off of cell phone towers? If your phone's within if it hits the cell phone towers? When you walked through the home, Officer Payne, did you take notes? Did you supply any of your handwritten notes with any of your reports? What is protocol to do with your handwritten notes? Do you photocopy them? What did you use to account for your first person assertions within your reports on your description of the walkthrough? Did you rely on your notes, your body cam? The first body you saw when you walked through the home, who was that, if you recall? And according to the PCA that you provided to obtain the arrest of my client, you, without using the medical examiner's report, you identified the wounds to be an edged weapon when it came to Xana Kernodle. Is that correct? What did the medical examiner say, if to your knowledge, what did the medical examiner say that Xana Kernodle's wounds were?
Asked and answered.
From her report, if you can recall. From your report, it said the wounds were from a edged weapon.
Asked and answered. Prosecution already asked that.
On just so you know this, on cross-examination, you can ask somebody the question again.
Again?
Yeah. What did the medical examiner say that Xana's wounds were from in her report? Because you noted that Ethan's wounds were, and you actually cited on December 15th with the county medical examiner to be caused by sharp force injuries. That was Ethan. Do you recall writing that in your PCA? Okay. So prior to writing that in the above paragraph, you write that Xana, you actually go ahead and, without noting the medical examiner's report, say that she was deceased with wounds which appear to have been caused by an edged weapon. But she had to wait until getting the county medical examiner's report dated December 15th, 2022. You had to wait for that to actually enter into the cause by sharp force injuries. Why? So this PCA was written after you were able to look at the county medical examiner's report on December 15th, which was one day after, let's see here. Yep, December 15th. Okay. Did you supply an affidavit in this case? Isn't it correct that you supplied multiple affidavits in this case? How many different search warrants with affidavits associated with your account were used to obtain search warrants in this case, roughly? Okay. Now, earlier I had asked you if you had been told about any possible, the identity of any of the possible victims before you arrived on scene at 4 p.m. You'd mentioned that in your PCA that you later learned that the first body that you came to was Xana's due to her driver's license and other personal belongings found in the room. Were you the first one to go through Xana's room to locate that? The driver's license? So Xana's driver's license was there. How far apart was Xana's body located from Ethan's body? If you were able to tell the wounds on 3 out of the 4 victims, except for Ethan, Ethan was the first body that you came to. Why was it that you couldn't tell the type of wounds? Is it because it looked different? Did you suspect a different weapon? Okay. How many times, Officer Payne, did you attempt to get an arrest warrant for my client? How many different times? Do you know why it kept getting denied?
What? How do you know it was denied? What are you doing?
I'm asking.
I don't think you could do that. This
I'm
is a
asking-
prelim. It's
I'm
outside
asking if it was denied.
No, I don't think
All
you
right,
could do
moving
that.
on. I'll strike that question.
Yeah, no. These
Yeah.
are like all outside the scope. You can't even
No.
ask about the search warrant.
Yes,
in
I can. The search
not-
warrant's in play.
Not
That's
at all.
outside.
It's
That's not
it
outside at
is.
all.
Yes, it is. In a pre-trial, and those are all pre-trial motions. For search warrants, that's all going to be handled before the prelim. If there's an issue with
You're
that,
allowed to ask them about a search warrant. That is not
you
true.
can ask about the search warrant, but not like if it got denied and the validity of it, because a judge has already signed off on it and it's done.
I didn't ask
and
about the
out.
validity of anything. I asked.
You just said
how
why
many
did it get
times.
denied?
I just said I would strike that question, but the other one
Yes,
was
strike
perfectly
it.
fine. The other one was perfectly
Absolutely.
fine.
I didn't object to the other one.
Okay, just making sure. Okay. Officer Payne, you, based on your expertise in cases and your job, you said that when somebody normally commits a crime, that it's common for them to shut off their phone. Is that correct? That's what you wrote in the PCA.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So how many phones pinged between 3 and 5 a.m. on the tower that 1122 King Road is located on? So 1122 King, there is a cell tower that house normally uses, and that's what you put in the PCA as saying that my client's phone was not pinging and didn't hit off of a tower between 3 and 5 a.m. But roughly, how many were pinging and were being utilized? Did that come up in your investigation? What did you do with those numbers that came up that pinged during 3 to 5 a.m.? What did you do? What did you do with them? Did you figure out who they belonged to? What was the point of that? Okay. You mentioned in your PCA that during your walkthrough that I believe it is page, if you want to turn, it is page 2. You said, as I entered this bedroom, I could see 2 females in the single bed in the room. Both Kaylee and Maddie were deceased with visible stab wounds. So you were able to visibly see the stab wounds. Is it because of how close you got to the bodies, or you could visibly see that from the door?
Your Honor, objection leading.
I'm allowed to lead on cross. You need to know your law.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer at all.
Yeah,
not even a little bit.
But yeah, so you're allowed to lead with cross. So when you entered that, it says, as I entered this bedroom, I could see 2 females in the single bed, and here you're able to say that with visible stab wounds. Was that visible from the door, or like how close did you get to the bodies?
Wait, so how were you able to ask about vandal alerts when it's supposed to be what was in the scope of what I asked, and I didn't ask about vandal alerts?
Don't worry about vandal alerts. We're already onto this. Keep it on.
You
keep it on topic.
Can't
Keep it on
ask any
topic.
of those.
It has to do with the cell phone towers. It would get in. I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Maddie's right side. You physically saw this tan leather sheath. Isn't that correct? But it was later. Now, did your body cam footage pick up the tan leather sheath? Okay. In your PCA, you stated that you went through the body cam footage of Officer Mitch Noonan's. Is that correct? And you were able to determine that the dog, based off of his body cam, that the dog was in a certain room in the house. Is that correct? Did you go through Officer Noonan's whole body cam footage? Did you see a tan leather sheath in Officer Noonan's body cam footage? Did you go through Officer Smith's body cam footage? Were you able to locate a tan leather sheath in Officer Smith's body cam footage? Did you go through Officer Gunderson's body cam footage? Were you able to locate a tan leather sheath in Officer Gunderson's body cam footage? Okay. In your body cam footage, were you able to locate a tan leather sheath? Did you interview a DoorDash driver? What was the date and time? And did they come to you or you come to them? Did you present any video surveillance to the DoorDash driver and ask them to identify their vehicle? What was the make and model of the DoorDash driver?
Car?
Yes.
Not the actual driver. You don't want
Not
to know
yes.
what her
Can you
make and
see?
model
Can
was.
you see the DoorDash driver on any vehicles? I mean, on any cameras? Could you see the car on any vehicles? I mean, on any cameras? Did you supply the FBI expert witness with the footage and ask the FBI expert to identify the make and model of that vehicle? What did the expert FBI witness say that the make and model of the DoorDash vehicle was? Did the DoorDash driver, or I'm sorry, did the expert FBI witness need multiple times to look at that surveillance camera to identify that vehicle? Was it the correct make and model and year? How many reports did the FBI come up with to get to that make and model of the DoorDash driver? So the DoorDash driver, their vehicle was no problem identified by the FBI expert with the same camera. But the expert needed to take further review to get the white Elantra. It says here that you wrote in your PCA that one of the surviving roommates, Dylan, stated that she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the south side of the second floor. Was that her bedroom, though? And why are you saying that she originally went to her bedroom on the south side? So that was her bedroom? Where did she go somewhere else to sleep later? Did Dylan state to you how she knew that it was 4 a.m. that she was awoke? You said that it was because of her hearing what sounded like the dog. Was that because of a bark? You also stated that she heard what she thought was Kaylee's voice. How many times did you interview Dylan? How many different accounts did she give you of that night? Why did you choose to go with this account? You reviewed all the phone records from all of the victims, as well as the surviving witnesses and roommates. How come you didn't use the victims' phones to determine the time of the crime? And you used the surviving roommates' phones as well as their statements? Isn't it possible that at 2:52, when both the cell phones of Maddie Mogan and Kaylee Gonsalves's phones were no longer being used at 2:52, that it was because they were deceased? Is it possible? Didn't you originally state that the crimes happened between 3 and 4 a.m.? What made you think that the crimes happened between 3 and 4 a.m. initially?
How do you know he did?
Aren't you the lead investigator, Officer Payne? Isn't this your case?
Wasn't that said in the press conference?
It was said by multiple officers. Did you ever believe, Officer Payne, that these crimes happened between 3 and 4 a.m.?
That's a better way to ask.
What made you believe that these crimes were committed between 3 and 4 a.m. initially? Okay. Officer Payne, just a couple more questions for you. You said that in your PCA, I mean, we could go through this all day.
I know it's going to be long.
But this is the last thing I want to point out. This is the last thing I want to point out, Mr. Payne, before we wrap up today. Is you write that my client's phone pinged 12 times in the vicinity of the 1122 King Road house. And that's based off of the phone pinging on a tower. Isn't that correct? Now, how many houses are in the vicinity of a tower? You know, hundreds, thousands. So you actually were able to narrow it down to an exact date and time that the phone was utilizing a tower that the 1122 King Road house can also utilize when people are there. That's what that means, right? So he could have been at as far as northeast, southwest in that radius and still been on that tower. Isn't that correct? Okay. So did you take those 12 dates and times? And did you ask any of the neighbors to look at their Ring camera footage on those dates and times to see if you were able to see a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra? Did any of the camera Ring footage or any neighbor footage come up with any 2015 white Hyundai Elantras or my client at the residence home? So you watched all that footage and you weren't able to come up and see with what I mean, that's going to be huge. So there's going to be yes, there is, or no, there isn't.
Right. He didn't answer.
Were there cameras in place at the locations that you are using today in August of 2022? Were they there in September of 2022? Were they there in October of 2022? Were all of those cameras that you were using today, were those located in those positions in August of 2022, September 2022, and October 2022? Did you review the Ring camera footage from those dates of the pings? Did you see Brian Kohlberger in any of the footage? Did you see a white Elantra in any of the footage? Did you look at the victims' phones to see where they were pinging on the days and timestamps of when Brian Kohlberger was pinging off of the same towers? Were their phones in use? Where were they physically at? Do you have any footage showing my client at the 1122 King Road residence? Do you have any eyewitness or any witness naming my client to be associated with any of the victims? How long did it take you to, or I'm sorry, why didn't you ever interview Mr. Brian Koberger when you came across his ID, his description that matched your witness's eyewitness description?
She's not going to ask that.
Why didn't you interview him? Weren't you looking to interview anybody that was associated with the 2011 and 2013 White Lodge?
She is not going to ask that. If she asks that, we are all in trouble. We are all in trouble, and Anne would be a horrible defense attorney if she asked.
Isn't it true you didn't interview Brian Koberger because he wasn't on your radar? Isn't it true that you were looking at all these other directions? Isn't it true you like to go wolf hunting?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Isn't it true you have a K-bar?
Objection. Objection. Relevance. Beyond the scope. Throw this lawyer out of here.
Did anybody find a K-bar?
Yeah,
And is there any blood? No, that would all be for the forensic investigators. Anyways.
They would, come on. But you didn't let me ask my questions, and you said you were going to help. But like the only thing that I would, here's the thing, is like, because for a prelim, you're trying to prove your case. So it would be about the DNA. It would be, and if hearsay was admissible, if not, I'd put Blaker on, then he could do it. It would be about the DNA. It would be about what the SWAT officer said when they entered the home and saw Brian. Hey, did the SWAT tell you, is it normal for somebody to be putting trash with gloves on inside bags? Is that a normal thing? Have you seen that before? What kind of trash was it? Were you told like what it was? Was it normal, like recyclable trash? Was it something else?
When did you start surveying my client? When did you start keeping an eye on him?
Why did you back and forth? I'd be like,
why did you let my client leave the state?
I'd be like, was it normal for the week before for him to have turned his phone off in the early morning hours? Did that happen? Ever before, where he turned his phone off and then for a period of time and then turned it back on when he was on his way home? Did you, when you got the DNA back, did you get when you got the DNA back, what happened when you got the swab of his mouth? Like, what did the buccal swabs prove? And,
why are you and Officer Blaker differ on the path traveled of my client that evening or early morning? Huh?
You might be able to ask that.
You're not aware. You're not aware that
you might be able to ask that, but because those affidavits were signed by a judge, and you are sitting in front of a judge right now, and so when a judge signs something, it's deemed to be credible.
That's not.
I don't know. I don't know. It depends how you ask.
He's saying he went straight home. You're saying he drove all over, and it actually.
I'm not Payne. You're wrong. I'm a state. I'm not Payne. Don't confuse me with Payne. Payne's not here. So then I would say that I would ask about the description Dylan gave. And then I would say, because he goes on in the PCA to say that he, saw BK and that he looked the same. So I'd say, when you identified him on his driver's license, did he look like what Dylan described him as?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. Just guys, think about this. Just think about this for a second. I mean, how long do you think that Ann Taylor is going to cross-examine these people? I would
as long as she can. If she can, she has to put up a really good case.
Well, I would just be getting as much out of them as possible to then impeach them down the road. So you want to ask stuff so that you can use it like down the road. If when you look back at it and you look at a question that they answered and how they answered it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I only got through how many questions
I
did they
know.
ask? You know
I
what I'm
know
saying?
because I
There's
heard
so
you.
much. There's
I
just
heard you
so
over there.
much. I'm like, oh my God. Like I'm like,
I heard it. No.
it's not about liking Payne. It's not about, they're saying in the beginning of the PCA that the path that he drove, was up and out that way. And he was gone for, all that time. But then 17 pages later, it's, well, we believe that he went straight home. And that's why there's going to be all this stuff at the apartment. I mean, so which is it? Did he go straight home or did he drive, out into east and around and spin around and stuff like that?
You'd have to ask it in that kind of way then, or she would have to ask.
Yeah, it would. It's just a lot. Like this, I'm very, very curious to see how Anne goes about this. Like, and I'm curious to see who and what they're going to use as for the state,
Mm-hmm.
Barely scratched the surface. It's so true.
Yes.
I mean, how do you pick out what are the most important questions or what you? No, it's more like just. That's why I think that I really think that she should hammer about the two different vehicles. And get them actually saying that you believe, like if I'm them, I would say, you believe that Brian Kohlberger was driving that white Elantra, don't you? Yes. And that he drove from WSU's campus right here, that this is him, don't you? You believe that, don't you? Yep, that's him. And then hit home that, and that car is also the car that's at the house. It's the same car, right? It's the same car, right? It's the same car. I think I would hit home on that, get them saying all that, and then hammer it with, it's not. And if that's not the car, then Brian Kohlberger isn't the guy, because that's how he got there. I think that's the route I would go. And only she knows because she has the footage, but how you could mistake a 2011 to 2016, but yet identify a DoorDash driver with the exact same footage. I think that's a huge line of question that I would use too, is what other things were you able to correctly identify with that footage? But yet here you mess up that one. So if they were able to correctly identify these other vehicles, did the FBI weigh in and say what that vehicle was and things like that? Did they nail that? Well, how did you nail it using the same footage? But you didn't nail, like, that's what you, because they're basically saying if you take away the SUV that brought Brian there, I'm sorry, not the SUV, but the white Elantra that brought Brian there, then if that didn't happen, then who killed the people? Who killed everybody? Because that's your route on how Brian got there.
Well,
but if that's not his vehicle, and if it's a different vehicle.
Well, there's other things to consider. I see what you're saying, but there's other things to consider. And I think that is what we are all
What other things are there to consider if you knock them off that, then how did Brian get there to commit the murders?
Well,
because
wait a minute.
Their case.
But there could also be, this is just, listen, guys, I'm throwing that out there. What if there is a co-defendant who drove him there? Who knows? What if, no, listen.
What's the state's case? That's what I'm asking.
What if, and beyond that, what if they have other stuff that's going to be more compelling? We don't know, right? So it'll be interesting to see. But with the stuff we have, I think we did a really good job with everything that we have, at least to give everybody an idea of what a prelim is going to be like, because they have put aside a week, like 5 days for this prelim. And what the state is going to have to struggle with is who is the most, or they probably know because they've done it before, who's the most important people to put up, right? That can get this done in that matter of time and fit the docket.
And you guys, the cops didn't get a year wrong. The cops didn't do this. The FBI, an FBI agent got the wrong car, because then they go back on the records to say that, they identified it being a 2011, 2013 vehicle. How would you feel if your 1967 Mustang was dubbed as a 1972 piece of shit?
Stop.
You'd be so
Stop.
pissed.
Stop. That's hilarious.
That's what's so funny is not 12 years difference. You guys, bless your hearts. Bless your hearts. You guys, if a light looks like this, and then on another camera it looks like that, it doesn't matter. It's a different car. Your lights don't change. Look at that. If it goes from that to that to right there, this one. Look at that. Like look at that. That
You gotta show them the like side by side. You did such a good job when you found these.
Yeah, 2000. I'm showing. If you can't see the difference of the lights, I mean, it's just right there.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at those wheels. Look at those wheels. Those are little press-on wheels. Those are hubcaps that would fly off when you hit the curb. They'd go flying.
Stop it.
All right, guys, you guys rock. Oh God. Thank you, Bella, for beginning this amazing debate.
I know. Don't beat me up later.
So everybody can go in the morning. I'm going to take all of your guys' questions in terms of, I'll drop the link and come on up here and say your piece, what you think, all those good things. But
be kind.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, it's two different cars. If in fact it's two different, how does the FBI agent get it wrong? Just ask yourself that, you know. Yeah. They're doing it this way, so it is what it is. And I just want all people involved. I want all people involved.
Well, the right people, right? So like these victims deserve. And I think that is why the state is doing what they're doing and bringing everything to light now with the Brady Giglio. I think they're cleaning their house now so that there is no technicalities. And I look forward to the prelim, and we're going to be there.
You better believe it.
Thank you, Kim.
Before we leave, how about all the craziness that's going on in these cases right now?
Please don't. I can't. What? Are you talking about Stalk?
I'm talking about, yeah. And then
Bela?
Lori just having a breakdown and needed to leave. I mean, come on. Like, you weren't having a breakdown when y'all did this. Like, that just makes me, that's why.
And the West case, that's really near and dear to my heart, that basically everything just started now. So, yeah, I mean, DCFS needs to change in California, probably a lot of places, but my heart's in California. For the Department of Family and Child Services, it needs to change, and there needs to be an audit done to find out what happened to those boys and how they ended up there.
Oh yeah. With that, yeah.
Yep, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
There's a lot of true crime cases going on that they've, trials going on. I don't know. I think maybe it was COVID.
Maybe.
But
maybe.
It's just, ugh.
What's interesting, did you notice that today, I heard, well, not today, the other day on Stouch's case, like the judge asked if the jury had any questions.
I know. Any questions for this witness?
And
because they didn't cross-examine.
No,
they didn't cross that witness. Oh, because you guys, it was on the, I'm going to call and do a fake polygraph.com.
Stop. Okay, so you guys listen to this. So Lana's like, why would this? I'm like, it's for cheating. It's for cheating partners. Like, that's why it exists. It's like, if I cheat, like, I could be like, no, listen, I didn't. I took this polygraph. That's what it's for. She thinks it's for criminals. Like,
I think that the police should like use it to like catch idiots. Like, she called it to really do this, and they're like, yeah, we don't. Based on your questions and your answers, we're not any part of this. This is for like infidelity. And she's like, yeah, that's what I did. And I'm like, I mean,
nuts.
But that's when the defense had said, we have no questions for this witness. They had no cross. And that's when the judge was like, okay, jury, do you have any questions for this witness? And just, wow, when you actually like hear this stuff, and anybody that could ever believe that this woman didn't do this, and you're just seeing stuff like this. And that's what I'm hoping is going to come out in this Idaho case, is like all this stuff that I hope that they have, that it all comes out, and that whoever did this, and if it's multiple people, that every single person that's involved in this goes down.
Absolutely.
Just like I'm seeing with that case, which is so hard for me to like listen to. I have a little boy. How you could ever, I can't even. It's hard. It's hard to listen to that stuff. It's hard to see. Like,
no.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of started all the, it's been a while. Gannon's justice has been long overdue. And I think that
poor little boy, man. And it's like, nothing can justify that in my eyes. And I really struggle with, why aren't people taking stuff out on the person that's like, that they are like mad at? I just don't understand that, or upset with. Like, why would you harm, the whole mass shootings and stuff like that? Like, those are innocent people, children that did not do anything to you. But that's what I think, that you can't understand stuff like that, because they're just not. Ooh.
You're trying to understand something from a perspective of somebody who's not logical or normal.
Like, why can't they just lose it on the person that they're pissed at? Like, right then and there, like light them up, like whatever,
Because they're cowards.
Maybe stuff gets vented up so much and then they just snap. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not.
We should do a prayer for all the victims, though, like a silent prayer, because there are a lot of victims, and thank God that some of them are getting justice finally. But it is hard. Like, that Gannon stuff is just, you're right. Can't even imagine. Like, I'm like, don't want to look at this as it's just too close to home for you,
Yeah. It's sad. It's just.
Yeah, philosopher, justice for the 4 victims.
Like little kids. Like, just how do you. A little kid, so like they don't. Just love. Like, teach with love. Just love.
Yeah,
I just couldn't imagine being like Gannon's mom, and it's so sad. Yeah. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Bella, for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, Mods.
Mods, thank you for making it all kosher in chat. They're the best. Good to see a lot of you guys in chat. I agree. Just kids are so innocent. And just like animals, and just, I don't know. But yeah, check again. Sorry about the whole stream and that it started on a different thread, but thank you guys for being over here, and we will see you guys soon. Keep being kind to one another. Lord knows we all need kindness, and be appreciative. Find the good. And I can't say this enough, but if you just don't say anything, go find, if this isn't your cup of tea, or somebody else's channel isn't your cup of tea, or the people that are there, you guys, I don't understand. Like, I've never been involved in my whole life of walking into a place and announcing who I don't like versus like saying hi to people that I know and like I've never, but you see people come into chats and they're just like attacking people that they don't like versus saying hi to people that they see them, that they like, and that they, vibe with their flow and their thoughts and stuff like that. I just never saw anything like it. Hey guys, I'm here at, club pub and I hate that person and F this person. And you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't know. You'd be running over to say hi to like, oh my God, Sue's here. Bob's here. I don't know. I guess I don't get it. I just know that I wouldn't waste time on people like that either. I would just block them and move on. So find a way to be kind. And when you can't be kind, be quiet and block people. And it's really, truly easy. Like, it's anybody that does it the opposite way. You, the drama. You crazy.
You crazy.
You crazy. All right. Love you guys. I'm out.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks,
All right.
Mom.
Thank you.
Thanks, chat.
Bye. Good night. Take care.